I've been doing a lot of reviews of these premium or boutique flat picks here on the channel recently, and quite expectedly so, I've been getting a lot of interesting comments basically saying, you're crazy for spending that kind of money on a pick, they're not worth it, etc, etc, etc. Now I wanted to talk openly here, this is not a sponsored video, about my experience with these types of picks so far. And I think this is important because I personally am not even a year into using something other than a $3 Dunlop Prime Tone, which is the pick that I used for ages. And I never wanted to spend more money than that because I was afraid I'd lose it. Quite frankly, I was on the fence that it didn't really matter. Less than a year ago, I picked up my first sort of premium flat pick. It was a Wiegand. Since then, I've adopted the Blue Chip Tad 40. I bought this one with my own money. I also have and been testing out and been using token flat picks, honey picks, as well as tone slabs. So I'm gonna give you just my honest critique here. That way, if you're thinking about buying one, or maybe you're skeptical as I was, or you read the comments and you're like, no way, I've got 3 points here that may or may not change your mind or sway you. And I say this honestly because these picks really do, at least for me, help my playing along, all right? So point number one, in the bluegrass circles here around East Tennessee, when we talk gear and kind of geek out on guitar picks, there's one interview, or one quote rather, that's often referenced, and that quote is by famous flat picker Brian Sutton, arguably one of the best alive out there. But in an interview, he mentioned this about what types of picks that he uses. I have a whole bag of picks that I carry with me. Picks to me are kind of like EQ with an acoustic guitar. I know the basic sound of an acoustic guitar, and strings and picks direct it. He goes on to say, as far as picks go, I am a big fan of tortoiseshell picks, just the way they pull the sound out of a guitar. It's interesting how different kinds of attack change your tone. People already think about the difference between a thin and a thick pick, but you can also use two picks of the same thickness but different material and get a very different tone. I hear a big difference in between tortoise, nylon, and plastic. It's almost the same things as different pickups for an electric player. And to me, this makes complete perfect sense because anything that touches these strings, whether it's the bone up here or the material down here, has a massive impact. So the material on the pick is obviously going to influence the sound, and then this pick is in your hand, and there's so much technique that goes in to your right hand here. Of course, it's going to impact the tone. Point number two is about value. Okay, the economy's insane. Cost of a cheeseburger is like 10 bucks. So why would I say that I'm getting the value out of this guitar pick? All right, hear me out. I use String Joy strings, and these run about $20 with tax. Any coated string is going to run you about that, if not more. And even a coated string, you're going to eventually change those out. Even if they last you 6 months, you're going to change them out. And with just two changing of the strings, you've already paid for one guitar pick that, at least for the blue chip, doesn't wear down. And again, as long as you put it in a safe spot, you likely won't have to replace it. Now, for something that impacts your playing and your tone so much, I think that it's a no-brainer to spend the $35 on a pick that you know is going to sound good, that's been well reviewed. I don't think these are gimmicks. They do sound great, and big bonus, they make your playing better. It's easier to play. Not unlike, pricier guitars, a lot of them will just feel easier to play. That's one of the main things that, players reviewing guitars will say, that it's just easy to play. The same thing can go with a pick as well. By the way, folks, this is a bluegrass channel here, so if you are wanting to get started learning bluegrass guitar, there's a free mini course down below. If you've got the basics down, you know your GCD chords, but you really want to dive in and get the foundational elements of bluegrass guitar, check Flatpick Foundations down below. That's my beginner-friendly bluegrass guitar course. Hundreds and hundreds of folks now inside of the program. It's made for those out there that finally want to learn how to pick bluegrass music, but maybe you can't find a teacher, or what you find online is just too over your head. Check out Flatpick Foundations, it'll fix everything. And point number three, which I've kind of alluded to here, but not only does it make playing easier, I've got quite a bit more confidence than I would with a, let's say, that prime tone, because it just feels less sticky. And I think you can imagine this as to why so many bluegrassers gravitate towards these premium flat picks, which, you know, the big difference is just the material. I've referenced this in other videos. There's a handful of high engineering plastics that the manufacturers make these out of. I'm no expert, but that is one of the main differences. For whatever reason, I just feel better with one of those picks in my hand. Like I said, I use the blue chip, but the other ones will, you know, get the job done. We were hanging out at practice the other day, and we were kind of, you know, trying to decide which one felt the best and which one. And honestly, it comes down to personal preference. I mean, it depends on what material you're using, what strings you're using, like if you're using coated strings or uncoated strings. So it just is going to be different. In my opinion, my recommendation, if you can try out these picks, do so without having to purchase one. I don't know exactly how you do that. You might check with your local music shop, but I highly recommend at least trying one of these out. That way you can feel the difference if you're on the fence or if you've been using, you know, a less expensive pick. Another option would just be to go and study the materials that these expensive picks are made out of, and then go find something similar online or on Etsy or somewhere if you're not wanting to spend the money. There's also Facebook groups. I know there's like individual sellers that just, you know, sell a handful at a time they make in their shop or what have you. But I think these picks are worth it. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Some people are like, you know, I bought one and it's just not worth it. Let me know what you'd like to see tested here on the channel, if there's a certain way that you think we should be testing them, because it is hard to, you know, do a real true tone test when we all play a little bit differently, or when I play differently each time. So thanks again for watching the video, folks. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.